So, like I said, like the my over over time, it took me 7 years to write the book, and this is because all this stuff didn't just happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? Like it was incremental. Each thing occurred, and then each thing was like I had to think about it and think about it and like develop it, and get super excited, and then something would happen where like it would be like, oh, now it's totally not gonna work, and so a good example of that is in 2014, or 2013 to 2014, I I saw that we could take, electricity. I had already figured out the principle of cumulative acceleration in space, and I was working from a standpoint of being in space, physically in space, looking around in a survival situation, and I was trying to produce the electricity, and so I figured, like, I used to have these wind-up flashlights and stuff because I like to watch the survival shows, and I have my own kit and all this. But so I was like, man, what would happen if I used that in the properties of space? Because, okay, first of all, like in the survival situation, like what I have to do is look around, what's my environment and all this, right? So the first thing that I did was learn like what the properties of space actually are, right? And so I'm like, man, wouldn't that be cool? I could like use this in the properties of space to spin a magnet inside the copper wire, and then I could just hold it there, and it'll produce power forever for me, And I got so excited about it. I was like, this is awesome. And I started like thinking about building these giant orbital, like, like star bases, with just these huge turbines in there that were just because of the properties of space, were just producing electricity for free, because the magnet would be spinning forever. And I was so excited, and I was like, this is awesome, And I was thinking all about it, And this is way before like I started to discover the gas on Venus and all these other. Well, maybe I did discover the gas. Anyway, this is way before like most of the stuff in my book. Okay, and so I had this Star Trek attitude, or Star Wars attitude, where everybody just got to sit around, on the ship doing nothing other than the higher level sciences. But they had a big giant city, but it was for no reason at all, because they were just sitting around and they weren't doing anything. You know what I mean? But that wasn't what I noticed at the time. What I noticed at the time, because I was trying to figure out how to do it, and I was like, man, trying to figure out how to get this experiment up into space so I could prove, like, look, we could produce electricity for free, Or trying to figure out how to put space in a box so I could do it on the planet and prove, like, look, we can get electricity for free. All we had to do was put space in a box, And I'm sure that Tesla, or like whoever, like back then, was doing the same concept, because they started to produce vacuum tubes, to make the environment frictionless, and so they were taking some of the properties of space and adding them into what they were doing in order to make that magnet turn faster. You know what I'm saying? Or to keep going. But then I finally discovered, like, okay, and then, and I was totally devastated. I was crushed. Like, I mean, I hit the biggest roadblock that I ever did in any of this stuff, because all of a sudden I found out that there was something called electrical resistance, where that magnet won't keep turning. It won't keep producing electricity, because I need a constant physical force to produce the electricity, and that there's no way to use the electricity to add the physical force, even in the properties of space, because you get the same amount of power out as your physical force puts in. So it's just a transfer from one to the other, from physical force to electricity. And so I was totally devastated, And then all of a sudden, here comes I mean, and so, I it just fell apart, my whole idea. And then a couple months later, like, just the inspiration comes. Well, wait, like, and I still got my flashlight, that I want, and finally the inspiration comes to build the zero gravity turbine. To where now, and then it was even better. It was so amazing because suddenly we did have, like, a reason to be there, a reason to have people there. And we were producing megawatts of electricity, and this was a labor class, and then I mean, that zero gravity turbine was just a godsend, because now it opened up space to all humanity, whereas before there wasn't any reason to be there. There wasn't any physical labor, there wasn't like the foundation, which is like all like people, so before, with the free energy, yeah, sure, like with the free electricity, it could have been robots all day long, but for no reason at all. You know what I mean? But now, I had suddenly, and I mean, it just hit me out of nowhere like a lightning bolt, People can do it. And, I mean, that's just one example of why it took so long for me to write the book, because it was so many godsends of inspiration, and these just lightning bolts or light bulbs, that it developed. So when you go and you read my book, like, and what I had to do was make it as brief as possible so that I could get across the greatest ideas and allow other people to flourish with them. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to sit there and beat people over the head, because I believe in allowing people to think. Like, when I write, I'm not going to sit there and tell you how to think. I'm going to tell you this and then let you flourish with your thoughts. And then you can move on to my next sentence or whatever. And so, like, and then, like, the first thing that I did when I wrote the book, the first book that I wrote, the rough draft, was like, I put each one of those ideas on its own separate page. You know what I mean? And then it might have only had like one paragraph, and then the rest was empty. And that was like some new format I thought I was going to develop, where, it was called courtesy. The courtesy format, so that they could write in their own ideas on there. But I mean, the printing costs, was costing me like $5 instead of $2. So I condense it down, and then I condense it down. But it's the same reason why I called it an outline. See what I mean? It's an outline because it's for others to be able to flourish with it. You know what I'm saying? It's an outline for others to say, wow, we can do that. Here's my idea. And then for everyone to be able to come together and actually start to do it in this way. And all for the betterment of humanity, So that's